it goes back to what you said when we were doing our prove-its, and we were doing our prove-it for Giddey, Will, which is, I don't care about your stats. Like, how many triple-doubles do you have this season? How many rebounds are you grabbing? How many assists are you dishing out? Prove to me and the Bulls, when you go back to the negotiating table, that you just spent a season making the Bulls a better team when you're on the floor as opposed to when you're off the floor.
Yeah.
And to me, that's all that this is about this season.
Yeah, and I think it really circles back to the concept of
That's a great point.
why trading for Giddey in the first place was a really risky play.
Yes. Yes.
Because you could have traded for a draft pick and then you have 4 years of security. Maybe that guy doesn't have the same upside, but he's a cheaper contract. Maybe you're a little bit more sure about how he fits in as a role player. And that's valuable too. So I understand why the Bulls are taking big swings. And like, to me, as we've talked about with draft picks, it is the most important thing is finding the guy.
Yeah.
And so if you feel like Giddey can be the guy, then I understand, go for it. But the problem is we've already seen that he has these flaws. And so now you have to determine, one, how it fits with your team, two, how it fits long-term and his ability to grow and develop and potentially like, you know, turn some of those flaws into things that are strengths or at least neutral. And three, how it fits in with the rest of your cap situation moving forward. And that's, I think, the other key here and why this is difficult and why it was right to wait is the Bulls have a situation with Kobe and Ayo where those guys are on really market-friendly deals, right? Those guys are giving you more production than what they're being paid.
Sure.
And that means they're going to have low cap holds when their contracts expire in 2 years. I believe Kobe's is about 24 million and Ayo's is about 14, which means that's kind of like the placeholder on your cap sheet before they sign. And so in 2 years' time, the Bulls will have Zach under contract for his final year, assuming they can't find a trade for him, Patrick, Jalen Smith, Modest Buzelis, and Julian Phillips. Obviously, they'll have 2 more draft picks in that time, assuming they keep those picks. But that's not a lot of money on the books, even with Zach LaVine's contract, if you aren't able to move that. So you could be in a situation where with those 2 low cap holds, you could have, you know, a good amount of cap space to be able to go out and sign a free agent and then retain your guys and have those 2 top 10 picks and be in a situation where like, that's kind of where you start to cook again.
Yeah.
So I think that should be the Bulls' plan, is to have like 2 down years where they keep their picks, where they're creating space, and where they eventually get to a point where they can make a big play in the summer of 26, 27 to where they can sign a free agent. And I think that is the plan. That's probably the direction the Bulls are heading. And maybe they could have even more space if they are able to get off of Zach. But how much you give Giddey now impacts that space, right?
Facts.
If you give him $30 million, now you're cutting into the amount of cap space that you have. And so you have to be careful about how much you give him, because to me, that should be the plan. And like keeping these 2 picks, to me, keeping those 2 picks and having space in 27 is, in summer 26 is more important than having Giddey long term.
We all silly like the mayor.